Have you ever tried having an adult conversation with your parent only to realize you're the adult in the room? They might dismiss your feelings, change the subject, or explode over something small. And then somehow, you end up apologizing. That's the emotionally immature parent trap. If you spent your life managing their emotions, and if you grew up managing their emotions, it's no wonder you feel tired. It's no wonder you don't want to have conversations. In this episode, we're going to talk about how we get conditioned to fall for the trap, how not to do it again if you decide to be in those spaces. Are you ready? Let's go. What's going on? My name is Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and you're listening to the Patterns of Possibility podcast, the podcast for late identified autistic adults who want real relationships without fake masks. Let's talk connection, clarity, and showing up as your authentic self. As I dive into the idea of the emotionally immature parent, I want to make sure to set the record straight and say that this episode is not about blaming them. It's not about trying to hold them accountable. It's not about trying to make them change or to shame them for being the people that they are, because it doesn't serve you. It absolutely does not serve you to say, I need you to be different. You must be different. I don't want to be here. You ruined everything for me. And then continue to hold on to that feeling and continue to blame them for what your life is now. I'm also not saying that you have not been impacted by your experience with them. It's real, it's true, it's valid. But holding on to it doesn't serve you. I simply want to give you some understanding into what might be happening with them so that you can protect yourself. So let's first talk about how we get conditioned to fall for the trap. And that comes from growing up in a household with parents who are emotionally immature. And when I say emotionally immature, I mean that they've never learned how to handle their own emotions or anyone else's. They're triggered by people's experiences or other people's expressions of their own feelings. It triggers something in them that's uncomfortable, and they've learned to deal with it the best way they can, by lashing out, by belittling, by doing anything it takes to get that feeling or that expression of the feeling to go away. So if you express things like how you're sad when you're a kid, and they can't deal with it, they don't know how to make things better for you. They do the best they can with what they have, and they say, get over it. I had to deal with it. It's not a big deal. That's them doing the best they can with what they have. Now, the impact that has on you is that you internalize your feelings being worthless, that you should not express your feelings to others because they just make people uncomfortable and they won't be heard anyway by anyone. As a kid, that's what you learn. But as you grow up, and if you've gone to therapy like I have to unlearn that, if you've gone to therapy, you've learned lots of tips and techniques. You've learned that your feelings are valid and they're worth expressing. And you know that your sadness about the experiences that you've had with your parents or the frustrations that you've had with your parents are real and they're valid and they must be acknowledged. But if you go to your parents' house and they have not done the same work that you have, you're setting yourself up for a trap. You see, the trap starts with hope. The hope that you, as a grown adult, can finally be seen as an autonomous person with their own experiences, their own views, their own life, and can be acknowledged by those people who brought you into this world. And why wouldn't you want that? The loving family, the being seen, heard, validated, respected for the person that you are, for the challenges that you've had, for how far you've gone, from people that supposedly love you. Why wouldn't you want that? There's nothing wrong with it. After all, you've done the work, you've gone to therapy, and you've been told that your feelings are valid. You've been validated by your therapist or other people. They've told you that how you feel is real, and it's okay. And there's nothing wrong with you. Why wouldn't you want that from the people who are supposed to love you that way? Who are supposed to be those people who care for you for thick and thin, who support you no matter what? Well, at least that's what society says that they're supposed to be for us. Why wouldn't you want that family? There's nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing wrong with you for wanting it. The problem that we run into is that our parents haven't done the same kind of work that we have. They may not have had the same access to the resources. They may be resistant to going to discover any resources. They not think anything is wrong, because if they compared their life to your life, they've compared their parents to how they parented you, they feel like they've done a better job. You've made it so far because of the efforts that they have put in. There's nothing for them to change in their minds. There's nothing for them to adjust. That's just how it is. And so with that and their mentality of things being just as they are, they never go and figure out what the problem is that triggers them when you express your feelings. When you express your feelings, like you've decided that you are going to be with a partner that they disapprove of, or you have a job that they don't like, or you have hobbies that they find weird. And when you bring those things up, it sparks a feeling in them. They will deal with that feeling the same way they have dealt with the feeling when you were a kid. Get it away from me. They'll shame you. They'll belittle you. They'll deflect. They'll start arguments just to make that feeling, or the expression of the feeling, go away. And that's the trap that we continue to fall for as adult children of parents who are emotionally immature. We have a belief that since we've gone through the process of understanding our feelings, we've gone through the healing that it takes to be in touch with our own feelings, that it's possible still to connect with those people who have not done the work. They can meet us on our level, and we give them extra grace because they're our parents, and we really, 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 really want that from them. Once again, there is nothing wrong with wanting it from them, but just notice what happens when you try. So in my personal experience, the feeling had become so overwhelmingly frustrating because society says that home is where the holidays are. That's where you're supposed to be with family, and you're supposed to connect with them, and it's supposed to be like a Hallmark channel, but that's really not what happens. And if you don't feel like you're heard, understood, appreciated, and accepted, then you question why you want to be in that space in the first place. But the societal pressure is there because everybody else is doing it too. And oh, by the way, it's something that you really want to work towards and you really want from your parents. If this is you and you still want to physically be present with your parents and your family members, then it totally makes sense. But I'd hate for you to go into a space in which you won't be seen, heard, or understood and constantly feel triggered by the fact that you're not seen, heard, understood, appreciated, and accepted. And another layer of by people who are really supposed to care for you. Society says they're really supposed to care for you. And they're not meeting that one need that you have. And you get triggered by the fact that they aren't meeting that need for you. What do you do? So if you're going into a space where you have a desire to be heard and understood, and you likely won't, here are 2 ways that you could handle this. 1, manage the amount of time that you are going to spend in that space. I think about going into these spaces if it's absolutely necessary for you and you want to be there. I think about it as like diving underwater. You hold your breath for just a few minutes. You know, If you're an amazing human, you can hold your breath for a few minutes, then you can. But there's a limited amount of time that you can do this before you need to breathe, before you come up for air and you gasp. So be intentional about knowing how much time that is for you. How much time and energy are you going to be using to mask? Because that's what you do when you go into these spaces. You know you're not going to be heard, you're not going to be understood, you're not going to be accepted. So you hide everything that you are, and you smile and you fake it, and you talk about whatever they want to talk about. You don't step on anybody's toes. And if you want to do that because you think the ham and turkey is delicious, then you go ahead and you do that thing. Not trying to stop you there. If you want to go and observe and see how people are doing, if you want a little chit chatter with some people that you actually like, but there's some strong energies in the room that you just don't want to be around, then you have to calculate how much time you can bear being in that space. And then, of course, stick to it. Stick to it. You're only going to show up for 2 hours, then that's it. 2 hours. Goodbye, everybody. I'm drained. I'm done. And in your mind, as you're on your way out the door, you think, man, they're lucky I showed up because I wasn't going to, right? Give yourself some grace. Don't shame yourself for not staying longer. The next one is about intensity. So you've decided how much time you're going to spend there. You could spend more time there if you wanted to not talk about anything that was intense. So you go in there with very strong boundaries. And this is something that must be rehearsed, because it's when you're in a situation where you feel the automatic need to shrink, you have to practice not shrinking. You have to practice holding boundaries and actually saying, like, I don't want to talk about that. I feel uncomfortable. Let's change the topic. Those things. I don't want to talk about that. It's not okay for me. I don't want to share. I want to go deep into it right now. Thanks for asking, but I'm okay. Stuff like that. These little phrases come in handy for deflecting those intense topics that people try to drag out of you. Like, they may ask you about your relationship, and the last time they heard about your relationship, they blew up because they don't like the person that you're dating. They don't like how your life is. So you know that's essentially a little tripwire. And so avoid that altogether so you won't go into an intense conversation. Yeah, I don't feel like talking about that right now. And like I said, it may not be very comfortable to say that right to your parents' face or to your aunt's face. But if you practice it, the words will flow easier when you're right in front of their face, right? So the thing that I'm suggesting is to come with your own set of topics and your own script for when someone is asking you about something that you know is going to lead to people disapproving, belittling you, dismissing you, right? So that's how you handle being in those spaces. Remember, you don't have to be there for the entire time. Above all, remember that your feelings are most important. If you're uncomfortable at any time, then you can leave without explanation. Oh, by the way, so I didn't mention this, but I think it's worth mentioning now that if you're in these situations in which you know that they're likely going to be emotionally charged, make sure that you have the flexibility or the ability to leave when you want to. When you want to. So you can control the time, and if it gets too intense, you can also leave, right? You don't have to beg anybody to take you home. You don't have to explain and over-explain. You just go. I want to wrap this up and say, if you struggle with that part, with just creating boundaries and taking care of yourself first, that's how we fall into the trap so often, is because we start thinking about other people's feelings, parents, family members, more than our own. We abandon ourselves and we fall for this trap that if we just did this, if we just explained a little more, but it doesn't work. It does not serve you. And it keeps you stuck blaming those people for not being the kind of person that you want them to be. But the work is for you to be the kind of person you want to be. You being okay. you feeling fulfilled, you being comfortable with your life. And I speak about this with such passion because this is all based on my own life experiences as well and things I observed from my friends and others that I've had in my life. It's essentially the expectation that they're going to be different because time has passed, but they have made no intentional effort to be better. They don't see a problem. And you see the problem, but they don't see you. Now, I know all the stuff that I said is easier said than done. That's why I have a masterclass coming up. It is a 30-minute masterclass, November 11th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's only 30 minutes. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about specific scripts that you can use in these situations. So if you're going and you want to talk about removing yourself at a certain time, then here's the framework that you need to do it. If you want to make sure that you only talk about things that are important to you, or that you want to make sure that you're not opening yourself up and being vulnerable, we're going to talk about that intensity too and how you can maneuver in those situations. So if you'd like to come to this masterclass, it's absolutely free. You can find the link in the show notes or go to parentsofpossibility.com/events. You will find it right there. Again, it is November 11th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will see you there. All right, let's wrap this up. If you've heard something today that has helped you see yourself in relationships a little differently, then I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can leave a comment here, or you can reach me at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe, it really helps more people find these conversations and join our growing community. And speaking of community, if you're looking for a space where you can express yourself and be met with curiosity rather than rejection as a late diagnosed autistic adult, then come visit theparentsofpossibility.com and find your community there. Learn more about what we're doing. We're connecting with others. You can be yourself and authenticity in this space. Find other people who've had your experiences, who know what you're going through, so you don't have to do this alone. Until next time, take care of your energy and remember that connection starts when you allow yourself to be seen.